Okay, so picture this. You're in your self-driving car.
Mm-hmm.
No steering wheel.
Yeah.
Totally autonomous.
Right.
Everything's going great.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, there's this, like, tricky situation where
What?
a pedestrian decides to, like, jaywalk across the street or another car swerves unexpectedly.
Oh, no.
And your AI, your self-driving car's AI, needs to react, like,
Yep.
now.
Yeah.
And it's got to be a fast decision. What's your gut feeling?
Oh, wow.
Do you trust a male AI voice more in that moment or a female one?
It's funny you should ask that. It seems like such a, I don't know, almost silly question.
Right.
But some researchers at Virginia Tech actually dove into this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and their findings are, I think they're pretty fascinating. They basically reveal how, like, our perceptions of gender might actually be influencing how much we trust AI. And we're talking about something as critical as, driving, right?
Yeah.
Life or death.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they use a driving simulator, which I think is really cool,
Yeah, it's very cool.
to get a sense of how people actually experience this, like, AI in these fully autonomous vehicles.
Right. And to be clear, they weren't looking at people's reactions to just, like, any AI, right?
Yeah.
It was very specific. They wanted to see how people responded to different types of what they call embodiment and gender in these AI systems.
Okay, so break it down. What does embodiment even mean when we're talking about AI?
So in this particular study, embodiment refers to basically, like, whether or not the AI has, like, a physical presence. So some of the people in the study actually had a robot with them in the passenger seat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a Now robot. It's about 2 feet tall, kind of humanoid looking.
Okay.
But then other people, they just had a disembodied voice.
Right.
Kind of similar to what we're used to with, like, GPS systems and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Exactly.
So you've got the robot or no robot, and then on top of that, you've got either a male or a female voice.
Exactly.
Did they use, like, celebrity voices or something? How do you even make sure it's a fair comparison when you're talking about, like, AI voices?
Yeah, it's a good question. They actually used Amazon's Poly text-to-speech software,
Okay.
and that was really helpful because it gave them a really consistent, neutral tone.
Right.
And they picked American voices, by the way. So for the female voice, they picked one named Sally.
Yeah.
And for the male voice, Joey.
Okay. So everyone's going through these same simulations. They're getting the same information, the same instructions. The only thing that's changing is how that AI is presented, both, visually and in terms of the voice itself.
You got it.
Okay.
You got it. This way, the researchers, they could be sure that they were really isolating how those two factors, the embodiment, the gender, were actually influencing how people felt during the experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did they feel safe? Did they trust the AI?
Mm-hmm.
Did they think it was even competent? These are all pretty important things to be thinking about when we're talking about literally handing over the wheel, right, to a computer.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what do they find?
Well, it turns out people weren't exactly ready to, like, offer the robot a mixtape and an air freshener just yet.
Right. Yeah.
The clear winner in terms of, like, trust and likability was actually the disembodied female voice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So no robot buddy,
No robot buddies.
just a voice kind of like guiding the way.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, that does sound kind of familiar, right?
Yes.
It's like having a super, like, advanced GPS.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that familiarity, I think, is potentially, like, a really key factor here.
Okay.
Think about it. We're already so used to, like, female voices in our navigation systems in our smart homes.
Right.
We ask Siri or Alexa for directions, to play music, to, like, control things around the house, and those constant interactions. It's very possible that they're actually, like, influencing how we view AI in other areas of our lives.
Yeah.
Like driving.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're primed for that female voice when it comes to technology. At least it seems like.
It seems like it.
Yeah. But you mentioned that uncanny valley thing. Like,
right.
how does that play into all this?
Yeah.
Because you're telling me people are primed for this voice, but, like, maybe they don't want the physical robot there.
Right. And that's potentially where the uncanny valley comes in.
Okay.
That, that feeling of unease.
Right.
When we encounter something that looks almost human, but not quite.
Not quite there yet.
Yeah, and the researchers actually, they theorize that that might be a big part of why that physical robot, no matter the gender, wasn't as well received.
Like it was almost too close for comfort.
Too close for comfort,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, we're okay with the voice.
Right.
Once it's got, like, a face and a body,
Yeah.
even if it's, kind of a cartoonish one, like that Now robot,
Right.
it crosses a line.
It's like those sci-fi movies where the robot's like almost perfect.
Exactly.
But there's just like one thing,
One thing.
and that's when like everything goes wrong.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and this is where it gets like extra interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because this study focused on a really like basic, simple robot.
Right.
Basically a stationary figure, very limited movement.
Okay.
What if it had been more expressive?
Right.
What if it like made eye contact or smiled or frowned? What if it could like gesture? Would that change how we felt about it? Or would the voice still be like the most important factor in, how much we trust it?
Yeah. I mean, it makes you think,
Yeah,
like, are we,
totally.
is that just like hardwired into us at this point?
Right. And it really highlights, I think,
Yeah.
how complex it's going to be to design AI that people actually like trust.
Yeah.
Because it's clearly not enough to just make it like look or sound human, right?
Yeah.
It's about figuring out like what are those really subtle cues?
Right.
What are the expectations that we bring to these interactions? And how do we make sure that the AI is like meeting those expectations?
Right. And speaking of expectations,
yes.
there's another thing in this research that really jumped out at me.
Okay.
Which is this idea that people rated the female AI as more competent.
Yes.
Which, on the surface, that seems to go against a lot of the like stereotypes that we see in the real world.
Yes, totally.
So what's going on there?
That's what I thought was so fascinating because you would think, especially, in the context of driving,
Right, exactly.
that like maybe people would default to, those like traditional gender roles.
Right. Like who seems more assertive, who's like taking charge.
Exactly.
But this is like the opposite.
Its study kind of flips that on its head, right?
Yeah.
It suggests that, maybe those like preconceived notions, they don't translate super well to the world of AI,
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
it's possible that it's actually our like associations with female voices. Like being helpful, being attentive, maybe even, soothing or something like that.
Right.
Those are actually like influencing how we perceive their competence in this very specific domain.
So it's almost like our brains are taking a shortcut, right?
Could be.
Like female voice, known for being a good listener, careful planner, must be a good driver.
Exactly. And remember, this wasn't just about like people saying, oh yeah, I liked the female voice better.
Okay.
They genuinely felt that the female AI was like making better decisions in the simulator.
Okay, so that's a really interesting finding. But like, why does this matter?
Yeah.
Why should we care if people, prefer one voice for their AI driving companion over another? Like, it's not as if we're picking out a new ringtone here.
Yeah, absolutely not. This is about way more than like just a preference. This is about figuring out like all of the factors that can influence how much we trust AI,
Right.
especially as it becomes more and more like integrated into our everyday lives,
Right.
And when we're talking about things like self-driving cars,
Sure.
trust is like the most important thing.
It's life or death
Exactly.
being decided by an algorithm.
Exactly. And if people are more likely to trust and therefore like actually use and accept
Right.
a certain type of AI, I mean, the people designing these systems, they need to know that.
Yeah.
They need to be aware of that.
Right. Right. Like, this isn't just like a fun fact. This is
Okay.
like, no, if we're going to do this whole self-driving car thing, we got to know this.
Exactly. And it's not just about cars either.
Right.
Think about how this might like play out in other areas where AI is becoming more common.
Right.
Like healthcare, finance, even like criminal justice.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we're not careful, that all those like unconscious biases that we have about gender or frankly any other characteristic, those could easily get baked into the systems.
Okay.
And that could lead to like really unfair or even harmful outcomes.
It's like we're on the verge of this huge change, right?
Yeah.
Where AI isn't just something on our phones or computers anymore. It's like making decisions that actually impact like our safety, our well-being, our money, like all of it.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, it's not enough to just like acknowledge that these biases exist.
Right.
We really have to like dig into them,
Right.
unpack them, really understand them,
Yeah.
and then figure out how to design these systems so they're as fair and as unbiased as we can possibly make them.
Yeah.
Which, that requires like going deep, not just into the technology, but
Right.
also like into our own psychology.
Right.
Right?
Totally.
Our assumptions are like our blind spots.
It's almost like holding a mirror up to ourselves as we're building these systems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this research, even though it seems like, on the surface, it's about something kind of simple, right?
Right.
Just a voice, but it actually brings up these like really crucial questions, I think.
Okay, like what?
Like, for example, as AI gets even more advanced, even more sophisticated, are we going to see those same biases play out, but with like different characteristics?
Oh, interesting. Like, okay, so like what about accents? Like,
right.
if I grew up like trusting a British accent because of like nature documentaries or whatever,
Right.
does that mean I'm going to trust like a British AI to like give me financial advice?
Exactly, right.
Int-
Or what about like if the AI has a virtual face or an avatar,
Right.
do certain like facial features
Right.
inspire more trust than others?
Oh, wow.
And then like what happens when you layer on top of all that?
Right.
All those like subconscious biases we have
Yeah.
with the fact that a lot of the data that we're using to train these AI systems
Right.
might be like skewed or incomplete itself.
Yeah, there's like a lot to uncover there.
A lot to uncover.
Yeah, it's like we're building the plane while we're flying it,
It really is.
which is like exciting,
Yeah.
but also like, whoa, be careful,
Totally.
Um, but I think like the more we know about those potential like pitfalls,
Yeah.
the better we are at actually designing AI that's going to benefit, everyone,
Wait, sure.
not just a select few.
Exactly. And that's the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
To create AI that helps us,
Right.
that augments our capabilities, helps us do things better.
Right.
Helps us overcome our limitations and hopefully, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
helps us build a more equitable and just society for everyone.
And you, the listener, you are a vital part of this whole conversation.
That's right.
As you're like going about your day, you're encountering AI everywhere.
Everywhere.
Whether it's like a chatbot that's helping you with a customer service issue, or it's some algorithm that's like curating your social media feeds, or maybe it is even like a voice guiding your self-driving car.
Right.
Like, pay attention to those like gut reactions you're having.
Yes.
Those moments where you're like, oh yeah, I trust this, or I don't know about this.
Right. Those are important.
Because your experiences, your insights,
cues.
they give us really valuable data
Totally.
that can actually like influence how we build AI in the future.
Absolutely. Because the road to like, a truly intelligent future,
Yeah.
it's paved with like curiosity and awareness and a willingness to like really look at our own assumptions.
Totally. So keep asking those insightful questions. And remember, the future of AI, it's not like pre-programmed.
It's true.
It's something that like we're all writing together right now.
Exactly. And as always, there's so much more to explore.
Oh yeah, we just scratched the surface with this deep dive. But until next time,
Continued.
we'll catch you later.